Hello and welcome to your Triage BSOTS training on Badgernet. We will go through how to review a patient's history, record a triage telephone contact, and then record a triage assessment. So once you have found your patient, you'd review all of their history, starting with up in the demographics banner, you've got their parity, their EDD, their current gestation, number of babies, their booking BMI, their blood group, and their most recent HB level. In the clipboard icon, you've got information such as partners' details, any cultural needs, learning needs, and gender pronouns if they've been answered. Obstetric history shows here. You'd review their risk factors and medical history and any management plans we should be following for their care. Management plan just meaning the protocols. You'd review their scan reports and where their placenta is. And scrolling right down to the bottom, you'll see the key events. So when they have been inpatients, who they've been seeing, who they're under the care of, for example, if they're seeing a consultant midwife. And in scan documents, you'll see any attached correspondence that might be relevant to this person. So especially if you see the yellow flag, which means social, there may be correspondence here from the health visitor, safeguarding midwives, or social worker. So a yellow flag is social, a purple flag is mental health. If you see those, you should go to the relevant sections on your navigation bar and read through there. You should also check their alerts. So now going to the triage section, we would review their previous assessments. So much like the notes during pregnancy section, you can see the dates of the attendances, what gestation the patient was when they attended, and the reason why. In the summary, again, you'll be able to see the date and time, the midwife that saw them, the reason why they attended, more of their history here, and the level of urgency, whether or not they saw a doctor. You'll be able to see their muse, any notes that were written, and then a summary of all of the phone calls that they've made to triage. So you can see this person has had 3 calls overall, but 0 in the last 24 hours. 2 of this person's attendances have been for reduced fetal movement episodes. So to record a phone call for this person, we'll click on the red cross and record a triage contact. You can see it auto-populates the date and time here, so if you need to put the time back slightly, you can do that. It's a triage phone call, it's incoming. You can see it's also auto-populated triage BSOTS. And then you could put it that it was the woman or person themselves calling. So it asks the primary reason for them calling triage. We will say that again, it is reduced fetal movements. And then we'll answer the rest of the questions. So are they contracting, any pain, have your waters gone, bleeding, any visual disturbances, any problems passing urine, do they know if they have GBS, any change in movement. So we'll say that they have been absent today and no, they've not felt them in the last couple of hours. Have they had any sickness? Have they been in contact with anyone that's unwell? Do we need to do sepsis screening on them? So our plan is to invite them in, so attend using their own transport. Of course, there are always extra boxes that are revealed so that you could write a full history in them if needed in the call details box. So the reason to attend is due to reduced fetal movements over 22 weeks. And we'll invite them into MAU triage. And the actions, we're going to let them know when we would like them to attend, and then we're going to let the labour ward know as well. You can answer the rest of these questions if they are relevant. The advice for early labour and when to call back obviously is not relevant for this call, so I'm going to ignore those. And then I will just auto-populate the date and time that the call ended, and it works out how long the phone call was for. And we will then save that. It will remind you to do a COVID-19 assessment, which you can do if it's relevant for your patient. So once you have invited somebody in, if you go to the woman lists and write BSOTS and click on the to attend triage BSOTS list, you will see that they will have been added to the list here. This can take 10 minutes or so if there's been a bit of a glitch, so you might need to refresh it, but it will tell you where they've been invited, their gestation, what time the phone call was, the reason why they've been invited in, and how they are travelling in. So going back to our patient, let's say that they have now arrived with us. So we would click on the little red plus again and go to a triage assessment. So depending on where you work, it may be that your lovely MCA sees the person in for you and writes down on the board the time that they arrived, along with their observations. That's great. So the time that they actually arrived, you could backdate this and say that the MCA said they arrived at 5 minutes to 3, but I am seeing them now. The location is MAU in Brighton. It's myself. And the reason for attending is reduce fetal movements. You see that when I click reduce fetal movements, I then get the BSOTS guidance come up on the right-hand side here. If you are on an iPad, the triage guidance will come up in the information section. So on an iPad down the bottom of the screen where you have buttons saying edit information, the triage guidance is in the information button. So I've got a box here to write the symptoms on arrival. I would input the observations here that the MCA has done for me and then complete anything that maybe the MCA left off. So the MCA has done a urinalysis for us, which was fine. Yes, there are fetal movement concerns. They've not yet been felt today. Membranes are intact. We have palpated. This person is 35 weeks. Let's say they measure 35 centimetres. This button has popped up so that we can review the intergrowth chart. Yes, we've reviewed the latest scans. And are there risk factors for a stillbirth? So yes. Complete the palpation and then we'd say we're putting them on a CTG. So you would then complete a CTG note to say that you are commencing one. Our Muse score is created here and her obs are all fine. We don't need to inform another midwife, but we will be letting the doctors know. When you click on Remind to Do Again, that will come up in your things to do list, which if you're on an iPad will be one of the icons up at the top right of your screen. I will, however, leave it blank. So our level of urgency, there's been no fetal movements felt prior to the attendance, so it will be orange. If this person had reduced fetal movements or an altered pattern prior to attendance, it would be yellow. So we'll put orange in here. You see it then gives us the list of recommendations and investigations required. These are the BSOTS recommendations. You can add any extra tasks if you needed to or wanted to. And that is our initial assessment completed. Maybe I've called the doctor at the same time, so I'm going to put that date and time in as well. And I will now save this. It's just flagging to remind you that there's no end time in yet, but we don't want there to be an end time at the moment. So now if we go to the summary of today's date, you can see the date and the time, the reason for the attendance, who recorded the attendance, and their category here. Do a CTG review. You have to say that you are commencing one before you can review it. So it's computerized, it's antenatal. Reason for CTG is reduced fetal movements, no fetal movements felt, pulse in, CTG transducer. Just fill this in quickly and save that. Once your doctor has arrived and is reviewing the patient, you could be looking through and signing off the outstanding task list. So, for example, you can say that we move them to an assessment room. You can put in the date and time that you did that. Of course, you can backdate this time. You'll see it will then remove itself from the list. Complete a palpation and plot it on the chart. We did that one, so we'll do task, it's done. Again, you could backdate it. And so on and so forth, and just keep working your way through the list. They are reminders of what you need to do. You can also add extra tasks if you needed to. Perhaps you've done an extra set of OBS in the time that you've been waiting for the doctor to arrive. So again, put them in and clear it off the list. So when your doctor has reviewed and everything is complete and you've got a plan of what you're doing next, again, you reopen the main assessment form. So you can come down here, complete this date and time of the ongoing care. You can write in here the time that your doctor arrived. Say it was 5 minutes ago. Search for your doctor. If you write in a surname, you'll be able to find them and select them, put in their grade. And then if you needed to escalate, maybe to a reg, you could put the date and time in here. And then, of course, there is always a button for you to write extra information if you need to. And then work your way down and complete the form. If there are any extra risk factors, you can add them by just clicking in the box and searching for them. So you should always update their management plans. So, for example, maybe all of this is no longer relevant because she's now 35 weeks and we don't need to do that. Maybe so we'll just take this out and say that she's having ongoing smoking cessation care. Suitability, advice to birth in a consultant-led unit. So this is this patient's third episode of reduced fetal movement. So we'll just say yes. And then the date and time that you've ended the contact and what your management plan is. So are they being admitted or transferred to another ward, for example, level 12, or are they going to continue with their community midwife appointments? Again, you have space to write up the plan. In paper forms and information leaflets given, because this is the training cloud, that's blank at the moment, but you could select here the reduced fetal movements or the Tommy's movements leaflet for them to read, and it will ping across to the app. And then we can save that contact. So you can now see it has an end time in here. And now that the attendance is complete, they should have cleared off of the woman list, the to attend triage list.